everybody. This is one of our favorite, at least one of my favorite times to do a Zoomer Times show because it's with Darwin Porter, our celebrity interview. He's an author like no other author. And if you've been reading Boomer Times for many years and you've now been, and you heard him on the radio, and now you've been watching Zoomer Times television, you know who he is. He's so special. You'll hear things here you'll never hear anywhere else. So just hang on. We have a great show for you today. Darwin Porter, take it away.
Oh, it's so good to see you, Anita, that everybody is still healthy and surviving. But I really want to talk about something other than the pandemic, but yet related in some kind of way. And that is that many social historians believe the pandemic will have great changes in the way men relate to women in the future. Particularly how we approach them, like hand kissing, or shaking hands with men, or just all sorts of things. And of course, the Me Too movement is still going strong. Our governor has got caught up in the trap. Andrew Cuomo, he's a very fine man, but as he said one time at a fundraiser, I am the love governor, a cool dude with lots of charm, because he came from an era now gone by. And indeed, I did. What I have seen in male-female relationships over the years, beginning as a little boy in the naval port of Norfolk during World War II, talk about Sodom and Gomorrah. Well, I mean, men and women. Well, for example, many men in the Navy there were they were going off to die, and sort of no one had a particularly strong moral code back then. And a guy called Fred Trump was building these little shanties. They were awful to house people, because all these families were arriving at the naval port. And my mother had lost her husband, my stepfather, and she had a job in fashion at Sears, and she quit and became Rosie the Riveter, building shipping things. And the only place we could find accommodation was at a Mrs. Rhodes boarding house. It was filled with young secretaries. Well, I'll tell you, the Navy was there day and night visiting the secretaries. I mean, I had never, seen such a thing. Again, it was the wartime, and I could go on and on about what happened. And in a way, I understood the way that the governor related to women. I attended this fundraiser with him, and he said, "I'm the love gov, a cool dude with loose charm." That's a direct quote from him. And he did have a physical way of relating to women. And now let's deal with hand kissing.
Wait, before you do that, let me respond to that, because I'm of that age, I'm your age, and I remember men acting like that, and I was not offended by it. I mean, you laughed it off, or you
Yes.
know, unless they got nasty, you just laughed it off and said, "Oh, go away," or something. And so it is a very interesting thing for a woman of my age to watch what's happening. It's like, what are you talking about? Just walk away. Why are you making such a big thing of it? So anyway, that's my little piece.
Well, I totally understand that and agree with you. For example, 3 presidents have been accused of rape. You know them well. Ronald Reagan in 1950, when he was head of the Screen Actors Guild, and the second term when Bill Clinton was impeached. Now, European press made fun of us for, he was impeached on a charge of lying about a consensual sexual involvement. The third impeachment was a little more serious, the charges. And the former president, Mr. Trump, now has 27 really sexual allegations of this was of a groping and also 3 rape charges. So we're not talking about that in terms of Governor Cuomo. His was more, he was just a real friendly governor. And some women have been seriously offended by it, but it's not the world I grew up in. First, on this kissing women on the cheek, I want to just tell you 3 experiences that I had, and a 4th experience trying to kiss a woman on the cheek that was played out by hundreds of people at the Orange Bowl. First, the good news. In 1958, at the Fontainebleau Hotel on Miami Beach, Eleanor Roosevelt stuck her face up to be kissed by a young reporter from the University of Miami. And you kiss Eleanor Roosevelt if she puts her cheek up to you. 1960, I worked for a boss who was part of Marilyn Monroe Productions, and on the set of The Misfits, her last movie, she turned her face up to me and I kissed it. On that one, I got a little bit of lip. And I've already told you this story, but I was at a fundraiser in 1964 in San Francisco. My best friend was Stephen White, the swimming champ of Indiana, and he was dating Janis Joplin. I'm sure you remember her.
Yes.
And she and Janis invited Steve and me to a fundraiser for Nancy Pelosi, and she was there. In a low-cut gown, I thought I was meeting Jane Mansfield.
Oh my!
A very well-endowed woman, and I didn't have that much money, but Janice contributed, and we all lined up to kiss Nancy Pelosi. Now, all those kisses went well. Now, you want to hear a disaster?
Yes.
I was the editor of the Miami Hurricane, and every week I know it sounds sexist or old-fashioned, but we named a hurricane honey of the week. And she was to come by the office every Friday, and we gave her an orchid and a kiss on the cheek. I mean, it was not sexual really at all. It was just an honorarium. And then I was contacted by the chairman of the Orange Bowl there was this big game, and he said, our lady had won the Miss, I won't name her, if she's still alive, she's been named Miss Florida, and she's going to compete in Miss America. So instead of that office, and you've named her Hurricane Honey, will you come to the Orange Bowl and present her with an orchid and give her your peck on the cheek? And I said, I would be honored. I would love to.
Right.
And they at the Orange Bowl, I don't know how many people that the Orange Bowl can seat, but a lot. And we were announced, and I came up on the stage, and she was in a beautiful white gown, and I got the orchid on her. And then I started to do the obligatory kiss on the cheek, and she started screaming. And
really?
Like I was Bela Lugosi come to suck the blood from her. I was just absolutely dumbfounded.
Oh.
And of course, I quickly withdrew. Now, she didn't become Miss America, but she did have that encounter several times as Miss Florida. She apparently, if a man got 2 feet from her, she started screaming, don't touch me. Now that could be psychological, I think. I mean, but I had to play that out in front of the Orange Bowl,
Amazing.
Now,
yeah, that was something you'll always remember.
I always remember that, but then I have traveled the world, and first, hand kissing. Hand kissing it was never so prevalent in America, but I got involved with Count Gulfarelli and his wife in Italy. He was the head of tourism. He got me involved in all these aristocratic parties, and the women, the aristocrats now, the women, they usually extend their hand in to be kissed. And I got involved with a count and countess in Paris and got invited to all their parties in France. And the women just routinely extended their hand, particularly if they were older women. But then I found out in the theater crowd and in the movie crowd, that is really kissy kiss. I mean, when I first came to New York and worked in advertising, everybody was kissing everybody. I mean, in certain chic circles, like a man and his wife came to your party, both of them kissed you. Now that reached an epidemic in America by the late 70s when everybody was kissing. I mean, men would go on the Johnny Carson show and kiss him. It was usually on the cheek, although Marlon Brando kissed the late Larry King on the mouth. And then the AIDS thing came, and that was quickly dropped. But I found that theater people often would kiss you right on the mouth. You know, I mean, it was a very loose atmosphere. But apparently, that's going to change a great deal. I had a long talk with my medical assistant, a lovely, lovely girl, and she was born in 1997. Which I said, that makes you the grandma of Generation Z, because that's when and I said, what is dating like today? And she said, well, in school today, girls could be too, but boys are being warned to cool it, to really cool it. And she said, one time I needed a real date and I had to call up a guy and ask him out if he would take me. And she said, I noticed in my dating life, a boy doesn't grab you and kiss you at the end of the date. He's a little shy. I mean, like, should I shake her hand? I mean, back in the 50s in Miami, which was Sodom and Gomorrah back then, I can explain that because why Miami was Sodom and Gomorrah back then. It was get in the back seat. I'll want to show you a few tricks.
Darwin, I remember some backseat episodes myself. So there.
Well, that was the thing to do, and
right.
But I found I had grown up in a place called Boomer, North Carolina. Now I know Boomer is a famous word with you as the august publisher of the Boomer, but this Boomer was very different from the wonderful magazine that you have called the Boomer Times. And this is where children were, this is Appalachia. Boomer is west of Winston-Salem, up in the Blue Ridge Mountains. The children were having sex with each other.
Wow.
I met this 13-year-old girl and her father routinely seduced her with the mother's permission. And
no.
Yeah, it was incest, but and actually I was 5 years old. I'm telling this story because it's not embarrassing to me, but I met this girl named Darlene Edmondson. She was 6, and this older woman, Fanny Brawhill, who was 7. And in Boomer, they took me up into the barn loft, where I learned that girls are made of sugar and spice and everything nice. But what I'm saying is this was very common. I mean, the boys would go on a camping trip and have sex with each other. Uncles were seducing their nephews. But in contrast, I had 2 great aunts and a great grandmother who was that part of that Buckingham family. And they believed that sex was something to be endured by a woman. I had an aunt,
really?
she said, I just closed my eyes and endured it until pig, that pig got off. So as a little boy, I was seeing two very different worlds, you know, and my great grandmother had 19 children. So I assume she had sex at least
19 children?
19 times. And then after the war, my mother said, let's go to this place called Miami. She said, what do you know about a place called Miami? I said, well, I hear they have oranges all over the place. And I never have gotten enough oranges, but I understand you just go down there and pick all the oranges you want to eat. And I arrived in Miami at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I thought I had arrived in Shangri-La.
Right.
I have never in my life experienced such a decade that I had in the 1950s. I sometimes look back, if I had any decade to live over again, it would be Miami and Miami Beach in the 1950s. Later on, the Miami Herald sent me to a place called Hollywood. That's Hollywood, Florida. I know there's a Hollywood, South Carolina too, but this, and Fort Lauderdale and Palm Beach. And what a place. That's in your territory up there.
Right.
That's where I hung out a bit with Burt Reynolds. And
Right.
he was seducing a mother and a daughter, but they didn't know about it. It was something private that he told me. And I later wrote a book about him, but not just based on that. I did put that incident in the book. And then all of a sudden I got called to Miami, and they said, George Beebe of the Miami Herald said, I like the work you've been doing in Lauderdale, and we're going to send you to Key West. And I'd been to Key West 2 or 3 times, but I went to Key West and I had truly arrived in Sodom and Gomorrah. 500 sailors were walking the streets at night, and young men and young women drove down to Miami to service the Navy. I guess that was the patriotic thing to do. And for $10, you could go over to Havana. Now, did you ever take the ferry over to Havana?
No, I didn't get to do that, but I knew there was one. The only thing I knew about Cuba, which I never, because remember, I was married in 1956. I remember you could go to Cuba and they had nightclub acts where sex was done on the stage.
Exactly. In fact, in one of my books on Steve McQueen, he was one of the early performers when he was a late teenager. And I even remember the name of his act. It was, forgive me, called The Cream in Your Coffee. I don't want to go into a description of too many details, and I put that in my book on Steve McQueen. But if I thought Key West was a wild town, Havana in pre-Castro, in one avenue, they had 28 bordellos. 3 catered to women who wanted young men, and 4 catered to homosexuals, and the rest catered to sex the old-fashioned way. And one sign that I found intriguing, it was a sign in English, and it says, "We cater to every known human desire."
Oh, that's
and,
good.
That was quite in English. In English, it was all in English. So people would come to Miami from the uptight Ozzie and Harriet Nelson on TV. You know, not all people were indulged in this. I mean, many hometown America. Of course, many things go on in hometown America. I'm not innocent about what was going on in hometown America, but Miami was a sort of and Miami Beach. My mother worked for Sophie Tucker. She was a lesbian, and I didn't, at that time, I was very young, and I didn't know what a lesbian really was. I sort of had the Queen Victoria approach about lesbianism. Queen Victoria said, we'll make laws against homosexuals, but not against lesbians because lesbian sex is impossible. That was Queen Victoria talking. But anyway, I found out it was so exciting. I think you lived on the beach too.
Yes, I lived in Miami Beach. I was thinking about it. My father was gay, and he on 21st Street. That was the beach where they all could go. And that was across from where Sophie Tucker used to talk.
It was, and it's also what happened is they called them the snowbirds, and there were thousands of young men and women who they fled in the summer because no one wanted to be on Miami Beach back then in the summer. But they were the hotel workers, and although many families in Miami were very middle class, you know, husband, wife, 2 or 3 kids, the sort of the post-war Eisenhower era, but it was the workers who flooded in, you know, from one resort to another. So anything was going on, and my stepfather, I had a lot of stepfathers. He was assistant manager of one of the hotels, a small one. And I don't know if you remember, it was a long time. Sonja Henie was the world figure skating from Norway. Yes. She later, I got to know her later in life because she was a multimillionaire and she opened the greatest art museum in Norway, and I wrote a book on Norway, so I had many meetings with her. But I asked my stepfather came home one day and he said, "You know Sonja Henie?" I said, "Oh my God, I've seen her movies. She's one of our guests." And she called me up. Instead of room service, she wanted to see me, and I said, "Oh, was she having a problem with her room or her suite?" And he said, "Well, actually, she was lying there in the nude and she did need servicing." But that was the kind of era that the hotel industry, Sophie Tucker was Ronald Reagan's favorite singer. Surprising, a Jewish mama, but was his favorite singer. And he arrived to see Sophie, and he had this beautiful blonde starlet with him, and her name was recently changed to Marilyn Monroe. And you may have heard of her later on. He wanted Doris Day to come with him because he had engaged to Doris Day, but Doris was not available, so he brought Marilyn. And that's the first time I got to meet Marilyn Monroe when she was shacked up with Ronald Reagan. He stayed at the Roni Plaza Hotel. Is it still there?
Right there.
Is it still?
I don't think so. I'm trying to remember if it is there. They redid it, but I'll have to find that out. I'll let you know next time I talk to you.
Yeah. Anyway, that was the chicest place to go.
Yes.
But he put Marilyn in the Helen Mar Hotel because he didn't. Right. You know, he had just made a movie with Doris Day called Storm Warning, which was about the KKK, not a typical Doris Day movie. And Reagan had and then he was in Miami to publish, and this Ginger Rogers was the other star of the movie. And that's where Reagan fell for Doris Day. It's about the KKK, so it wasn't about a musical, I can assure you. And that's why he was in Miami with Marilyn. And then, of course, I said I got to know her later on because my boss was part of Marilyn Monroe Productions. Now, she had quite a life, but the thing that I found when I got to New York, I worked on Madison Avenue, and it was a very freewheeling place on Madison Avenue. Fortunately, Miami and Boomer had made me a very experienced boy. And so I fitted into that madman world. And the offices were in San Francisco, Honolulu, and Los Angeles. So I didn't really see small town America for quite a while, but I had that background as a teenager in Florida. So I was, and then Simon and Schuster, I went to work for them and they sent me around the world. And and part of my job was to check out nightlife in every country. Well, there was an actress called June Havoc. She was the sister of Gypsy Rose Lee. And she said, Darwin, you should write a book about the nightlife that you saw in every country of the world. And I said, June, dear, I could do that, but I don't think anyone would believe me.
Oh, that's good. That's a good statement. That's
I
true.
will say this. If I were still shockable, I won't go into detail, but the one place in the world back then, if you wanted to be truly shocked, was Puerto Limon, Costa Rica. If
Really?
you survive what was going on in Puerto Limon, it's not something I'm proud of. It's a terrible, terrible thing. That was the world center of snuff films. Now, snuff, do you know about snuff films?
No, I don't. Not at all.
They were very popular in Hollywood. They showed them at, private parties. At the end of a man and woman would be filmed having sex, but at the end of the film, the life would be snuffed out of the girl. They would choke her to death.
Oh,
And,
no.
and they
Oh,
made,
that's horrible.
and these films were shown all over Europe, not in theaters. I mean, these were they used to show them in Hollywood. I thought it was the most horrible, gruesome thing. And Puerto Limon, I'm not speaking of it today, was the center of it lasted for about 10 years. And the victim never knew that his or her life were going to be taken at the end of the film. So when you travel for nightlife around the world, you can expect to see many, 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 many things. And I will not take dear June Havoc's advice. I will never, I'm too busy. I have other things to do. But it was certainly something about what happened in the 20th century. And you're right, men were very aggressive. In fact, women were also very aggressive. I mean, let me give you an example on Miami Beach. I don't know if you remember them, but they actually had male auctions on Miami Beach. It was later.
No, I don't remember that.
Well, yeah, 3 boys I knew in college auctioned themselves off because there were a lot of rich, lonely women on Miami Beach. So they had this auction, and a boy could make a lot of money. He could make $500. Now, $500 in 1958 was a lot of money. But the moment.
What did he, wait. So what did he have to do? Only have sex with this woman and that was it?
Spend the weekend.
Oh.
Yes, there was a lot of sex involved. And I mean, many of these women were fairly attractive. They were.
Sure.
Yeah.
And Dan has just appeared. So I think we've running out of time, aren't we, Dan?
Just about. We got 4 minutes left.
4 minutes
Okay.
left. And so even when I entered Ada Merritt Junior High in Miami, you would think that would be a safe destination. But back then, and all this was exposed later, they had teen sex clubs. Now, we're not talking high school, we're talking junior high. And of course, that was later exposed in the paper. So I really felt, and I still do, that Miami was that was a great party town to arrive in And South Florida was just rocking and rolling. And now I hear some woman now has come forth and said that Governor Cuomo kissed her hand, but as he did, he touched her bare back.
Oh, I know. I mean,
Well-
I have a problem with this, but let me just say
Yeah.
something to you. You went to Ada Merritt. I went to Shenandoah Junior High, and there was my mother would have to drive me and then pick me up. So it's a skating rink, and I'm there having fun, and my mother's watching me, and she was so upset when I got back. She said, "You should not touch those boys." She said, "You're touching them, and that's getting them excited." Can you believe that? So that's how I grew up.
Yes, I can. In fact, I had a home in Coconut Grove rented by my stepfather. Jessie Porter Newton, the Queen of Key West, a very elegant lady, owned it. And I had weekend parties there. In fact, if I remember, I think you were in the corner with Elvis Presley.
You're so
I'm not, but anyway, it was a grand time and a great place to. I know South Florida is very different today, but it was a wild time for a kid like me. But
I bet.
I will never forget
And we're
it.
going to catch up with you next time because everything's getting hotter out there, and you're going to be able to tell us a lot of things by the time we talk to you next month, right?
More than you would want to know.
More than you know. Thanks, Darwin. It was wonderful having you on today.
Don't go to Porte Le Monde.
No,
Don't.
oh my God, snuff. I never heard that. Well, you always tell us something. So we're looking forward to your next article for our March issue, our April issue, excuse me.
Yes.
Okay. Bye, Darwin. Thank you, honey.
Bye-bye. Always
Bye-bye,
great.
Dan.
Goodbye, all.
The red shirt.